Good evening to everybody. Good evening. We are about to start in a few minutes. We are about to start in a few minutes. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. You can just share the link with everybody you know, your friends, your family. We are waiting for the others now. They are coming. They are coming. So thank you for being there. Thank you for being there. We are about to start our live in a few minutes. Just share the link with your friends. Share the link, share the link. We're gonna start. Two minutes to go. 2 minutes to go. Come on, come on. 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes to go. 10:30 we're starting. 10:30 we're starting. I hope you guys are ready for that. Two minutes to go. One minute to go. 1 minute to go. You still have time to share your link with the others. So don't miss this opportunity. 1 minute to go. Just share the link. 1 minute to go. One minute to go. Okay, okay, okay. So before starting, I want us to listen something very quickly. So good evening to everybody. I hope that you are fine. You can just write down if you can hear me well. We are going to start now our live. As it has been mentioned, we are going to talk about interesting topics here. So I want you to be focused on what we're gonna discuss about. And also I'm waiting for the questions of everybody. We are talking about Africa here. We are talking about Gabon. We are talking about the whole continent. So I want you to be focused. I want you to just give your attention to what's gonna be said here, because it's not only about one country, my country, Gabon. It's about all the countries that are in our continent and even beyond. Our theme today, it's mostly about Gabonese youth, Gabonese youth, Gabonese youth. So, well, first, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Séraphin, okay, in English, but in French, it is Séraphin Moundounga. And I am the co-president of the movement Gabonese Patriots. So, some people may ask the question to know, actually, why doing such a live in English? Because actually I am coming from Gabon and we speak French there. But the most important, the thing to understand is we are trying to make our voices heard all around the world, not only in our country, not only in our continent, but even beyond the frontiers that we have. The most important here is not to think that I am a French speaking guy, then I should make this life in French. No, it's about sending the message, sending the voices, sending all we have inside of us and share it with all the other nations, because what's happening in Gabon is gonna be affecting all the other countries, not only around us but also all over the world, because now the world is interconnected. What happens in France will touch America. What happens in China will touch Africa. What happens in Africa will touch America. So we have to put in our minds that we are in an interconnected world. And because of that, we should be aware of what is going on in the other's country. So our first topic today is about Gabonese youth facing constitutional reforms. We're going to develop it a bit faster because of the time. So, many of you may know what's happening in our country now, Gabon. In 2023, in the 30th of August 2023, we have known what we call a coup d'etat. Unfortunately or fortunately, some of the people, mainly the authorities now at power in our country, may say that it has not been a coup d'etat, but it has been a coup of freedom. But I'm going to ask the question, what is the difference between the freedom and the coup of freedom and the coup d'etat? Because that's what they argue, that it happened in our country. We all know that once the military forces take the power, take over the control of the country, then this is known as a coup d'etat according to what is taught. Because we must not forget that the democratic system that we have in not only in Gabon but also in the other countries in Africa is has been actually imported from the Western side of the world. So democracy is not a concept that we as Africans, we developed. No, democracy has been brought to our cultures in order to make up a certain system that should work in our continent. Unfortunately, we're going to ask the question, did this work truly since our independences in Africa? Since 1960s, when African countries decided to take over the control of their territories, we now introduced something called a concept called democracy. So this democracy is it working truly in our countries? Beyond this question, we have the fact that still it is present actually in our countries and mainly in Gabon. So, before the 30th of August 2023, we had systems, we had rulers in our country called Gabon, and we have been, of course, ruled by a dynasty, we can call it this way, like the family called Bongo for more than 54 years. Now, all this dynasty has been at power, and we must actually affirm here, we must be sure about what we are saying. We have been suffering under the regime of that family. Unfortunately, the rulers coming and exchanging their positions years after years didn't bring anything of concrete to Gabonese people. So when we witnessed actually the weaknesses of this system that was actually that was not organized in a good way in order to develop our country, now the people was not satisfied with what was happening in our country until 2023. We had the father Omar Bongo, we had the son Ali Bongo. So when all these rulers came to power and they just destroyed actually the society that we have, people were killed, people were injured. When we see all the different elections that we had during all these years, these were fake elections, and we say it with a great vivacity because we have been actually witnesses of those different decisions taken by the leaders back to that time. In 2009 happened an election. Ali Bongo won, but he was not the winner back to that time. The opposition side had won the elections. What happened? Gabonese went into streets in order to protest against these results that had been given. Before that, even in 1990s, with the father at the power, we had a lot of schemes happening during all the elections, all the fraudulent things that we could see. And when Gabonese people were not satisfied with the results given, they just went into the streets and they tried to protest against the results that were given. People were killed by policemen. People were killed by the army. So all of this continued years after years into 2009. In 2016, the same thing happened with Ali Bongo. He didn't win elections, but still, he had gone into the presidency. It couldn't be understood. After that, in 2023, we also had fraud in elections, and all of these, when Gabonese people saw that, when the army saw that, we were afraid of what would happen the day after the proclamation of the results, after giving the results of the elections. And after when we arrive at the date, finally, the 30th of August of 2024, we could see actually that the last president, Ali Bongo, was proclaimed as the winner of these elections. And the population saying that it was actually in the morning around 3 or 4 a.m. when the people saw that they were ready to go into streets. And before even going to streets, the military forces got up and started the coup d'etat. This is all that happened until 2023. When the military forces came to power, they said that it was because of the fraudulent results of the elections that they took over the power. And when they came on the 4th of September 2023, the one that has been introduced as the president of transition said to the Gabonese population that he would be there for a while, and and he would give back the power to the civilians after ruling and after changing the concept of institutions, after changing all that was bad in institutions. This is why they have put in place a certain committee for the transition. And this committee is still there ruling the country. They had given a certain schedule last year saying that they would be there for 2 years. Now, from this month of August, September passed also, we came into a certain period where we had to have a national dialogue in April 2024. This is where we started to understand that the transition in our country was getting weaker and weaker, because from that month fromward, we could see the reality. We could see that the authorities were not even hearing the aspirations of the people, because they said that it will be an inclusive national dialogue. So we would understand, we would hear the will of everybody in our country. Unfortunately, what did we see? A lot of resolutions had been taken in order to rewrite our constitution that has been manipulated for a lot of years now in our country. What happened is that Gabonese people, I'm just taking a little example. Gabonese people say that in order to have a stronger constitution, we should a stronger constitution and also a stronger system of ruling, we should not have a mandate going a term, or a presidential term going until 7 years while ruling. They say that during the national dialogue. Unfortunately, with the new constitution, we can see that still 7 years stayed up there. This is unthinkable. This is not bearable. We cannot bear that. We cannot bear that, because not only this example, but a lot of other examples, like in the diplomatic side, for example, the national dialogue, it has been said that Gabon should review all the different agreements it had with France, talking about the military aspect, talking about the economic aspect, and even beyond. What happened months later? Nothing. And if we are rising like this, raising our voices, it is to make understand that the will of the people has not been respected. We were all happy when we saw the military forces coming to power and making a lot of promises to the people. We were with them because we were assuming that now a new era was coming to our country. Unfortunately, it was just like, it was just like a dream that they were sharing with Gabonese people. But now we understood the reality. And Gabonese youth should understand, should be aware of these realities. Not only Gabonese youth, but also all the other communities, all the other countries in Africa. So, what happened? Yes. Here we're talking about the place of the youth. We are talking about the youth facing these new constitutional reforms. Now we are entering in our topic. Historical fact that I was explaining. Now we can take our subject, our topic of the day. Gabonese youth, facing constitutional reforms. In the history of Gabon, we have been witnessing a lot of reforms. We have been witnessing a lot of the decisions seeking to change the constitution, seeking to change the rules, seeking to change the laws. Sorry. So, and now in our country, with the new constitution that we are trying to adopt, we want a new country. We want now new aspirations. We want now new laws that will make the consensus in the population. Unfortunately, what we are witnessing now around all our country, from the national dialogue that happened when a national committee was also instituted in order to write the constitution. This constitution went into the parliament in September. They had 10 days. They had 10 days in order to rewrite to see actually and give their point of views actually about the constitution that had been proposed from that national committee. And also they gave actually the summary of their work to the transitional committee in order for them to review that and to propose a new constitution to Gabon. Now on Saturday, so tomorrow, we have to go and to vote to take a decision about this new constitution that is actually being proposed to Gabonese people. The youth in our country is not aware of the challenges, is not aware of all the different aspects that are written in this constitution. I hear a lot of debates, even in our country. I hear a lot of debates on social media, and one of the things that is actually crucial to understand is this following the separation of powers, because we are in a democracy and we are also in a new regime that we have adopted from the national dialogue, the presidential regime. People are saying here and there that the president has not been given the hegemony in our country. But I said that this is actually the contrary. Because in a presidential system, you cannot have a president who has the prerogative to dissolve the parliament, the National Assembly for our case in Gabon. This is not seen in other countries. I'm going to take questions later once I finish. When you have the president who is the chief of the executive, when you have the legislative core that is like voting laws, when you have the judiciary also power, you cannot make them intertwined. They have to operate separately. The president has to rule the executive. The MPs have to rule and have to get the hegemony in the legislative side. And also the judges should be in hegemony in the judiciary system. What we're witnessing in the new constitution, it is that now the president is not only the chief of the executive first, he has the power in a presidential system, please, to dissolve the National Assembly. 2, he is also the one who is the president of the High Court of Judges. You should put that in your mind. So if he is the president of the High Court of Judges, where the High Council, please, the High Council of Judges, when you understand that he has the ability to rule this council, then he may influence this council. It means that there is already a mess in that. Because you cannot be the president of the executive, and when the judges have their meeting in order to have appointments, you are the one going there and taking part into that meeting. So now it means that the minds of the judges are already shaped, and there is nothing to do about it, because we know the mentality of Gabonese people. People say that we should first change our mentality, and we will adopt this text, this draft constitution, and later we will see how to adapt to that. No, that's utopia. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Firstly, we should make good laws. We should make a good constitution, and this good constitution will shape the rulers, those who take decisions. It is the way it works. You cannot just think about an ideal. You cannot just think about a better word in your mind that the mentality will change one day. We know our mentality for many years in our country, that when you are on power, you want to stay there, not only in our country, but also in the world continent, in Africa generally. That's what we call corruption, because you're ready for everything in order to corrupt the system, to change the laws, to change the constitution, and everything. So we should have a strong constitution, stronger than a man. And I remember what Barack Obama could say in Ghana in 2009. He said that in Africa, we don't need strong men, but we need strong institutions. We need strong institutions. We don't need a strong president. I'm sorry. We don't need a strong president of the National Assembly, so the speaker. I'm sorry. We don't need the judiciary power to be even greater than the other powers. I'm sorry. Now we're not talking about the separation of powers. No. If we decide, as I was saying at the beginning, if we decide to adopt this system, saying that the presidential system under democracy will be adopted in our country, then we should also abide to all the different rules of this democratic system. Either we want a democratic system or we want a monarchy. If we truly want a monarchy, then let's stop everything. Let's stop everything about this constitution stating that we'll have a republic and stuff. No. Now what we are doing in our country, in Gabon, is a monarchy. It's the way it is, because now one single guy will have the ability to do everything he wants, he will allow himself to do. I'm sorry, we have to sit down and take this matter at stake. Because when we talk about the management of a country, we're not talking about emotions. I'm sorry. Now we're talking about the destiny of our country. It's not about the destiny of a village or of a city. No, it's about a whole country. It seems like the leaders now have maybe forgotten the concept of the social contract, because this is also one of the things of democracy. What is the social contract? And they are writing in the Constitution at the Article 37 that the state will guarantee water and energy to the population, to the society. Is it necessary to write such a thing in the Constitution? No, because even before the Constitution, when the people decide to create a republic, a state, the state is that one that should ensure actually all the different aspects of the life of the society, assure the survival, assure the wellness, and everything that goes beyond that. So We are not going to write a constitution saying that the state will guarantee this need of the society. The state will guarantee this and that. No, this is just, to blow the mind of the society away and take advantage out of it, so that when the society will see that, oh, they have thought about us, they have thought about the people, then we can vote for that. Because they work with the mentality that the people doesn't think. The people don't think. That's how they think. That they don't think about serious matters. So let's just make up something and give it to them. They will vote for us because they will see that we are interested in them. And there are a lot of articles like this. When I hear people saying that there have been a lot of things that have been added about society and stuff, that is good to add stuff about society in the draft constitution. But will you apply all the things, all the constitutional laws that you're writing in this draft constitution? The thing is not to write, it is to apply. And that is what has been one of the problems, not only in our country, but also in other countries. The thing it is to apply. Since the primary school, we are already used to cheat. So if you're used to cheat since the primary school, you grow with this mind. And when you grow with this mind, you will also cheat even when you will be in the government. Because everything was free in the past, it is still free, so I can continue, I can go on cheating. So the most important is not to say that we write all those aspects in the Constitution. No, it is to say that we will write and we will respect them. We will abide by these laws. That is actually the most important aspect. This is a framework of our new Constitution. And we have to explain it not only to the youth of our country, but to the youth also of the whole continent, Africa. Why? Because even this draft constitution doesn't take all the aspects concerning the sovereignty. It doesn't. This is why in the preamble it is written that Gabonese recognizes its sovereignty over national resources. Okay, you recognize it, and what's next once you recognize that? Still, you have foreign powers coming to take your resources out of the country, and they go to enrich themselves. It's not about writing that you have sovereignty over your natural resources. It follows by saying that it recognizes its sovereignty over the numerical aspect, so the numeric technology. So it's okay. Now I was expecting to see after that Gabon recognizes its sovereignty over its economy. Unfortunately, I couldn't see that. So you're talking about the sovereignty in a certain aspect of natural resources. Okay, that's good. And the numeric. But after that, what's next? Still, your economy is being led by Westerners because you are not out of CFA franc that we call in French franc CFA. The CFA franc, a currency that has been adopted even before the independences. And in the national dialogue, it had been said that we should find a solution in order to cut off this economic system, in order to change this question of CFA franc. Why not thinking about adopting another currency? Still, our banknotes are being produced in France, in the central bank, and we are taking those banknotes and we are using them in our country. Still, you don't have economic sovereignty. You're still behind because you will not rule yourself in the economic side. You will not take your decisions. You will take decisions influenced by the Westerners. You don't have industrial sovereignty. It means it's a problem because 90% or even 95% of the industries that you have in your country are from foreigners, from Westerners. 95%. No, I'm sorry. You cannot emancipate yourself with foreign industries in your country. It's impossible. When we talk about sovereignty, you shouldn't think about it just like with a political point of view. No. Sovereignty is not only political, it is also economic and industrial. So you should develop your own industries in your country. After developing those industries, you will now have the hegemony in this sector. They don't want to talk about the reality of the iron of Belinga in our country. It is in one of the provinces of Gabon, Ivindo Ogwe Ivindo. It has been years now that they cannot exploit this iron, the resources in this side of the country. And they come to write in the draft constitution that they have sovereignty, okay, they have sovereignty over natural resources. That is fake. It's just about writing. It's not about applying. That's it's like a curse. I'm sorry to say that, but it is so. So, write a draft constitution that will allow Gabon to be really independent in Africa. Really independent and really sovereign. If you don't write such a constitution, it means that you messed everything up. And now, the youth to which we are addressing ourselves should understand that our country, Gabon, will not be led by other people in 10 years, in 15 years, in 30 years. No. Our country will be led by the youth of today. So the youth of today should be aware of these questions. Because if you're not aware of that, if you just skip all the process that is happening now, that is occurring, then in the future, you will just have all the different results, all the consequences of the decisions that had been taken in the past, and you were not willing to participate to the process of decision making, then you will be actually maybe suffering from the negative side effects, the side effects of all the decisions that had been taken. So, Gabonese youth, don't just go into pubs. Don't just go and play football. Don't just go and smoke. Don't just go and sleep. No, sit down, read the constitution that has been given to you, and say that now I decide to be an actor. And as a Gabonese patriot, I am the co-president of the movement Gabonese Patriots. I encourage the all youth. When I say I talk on the behalf of the movement, that all the youth should be aware of the questions that are now occurring in our country. First, they should try to see how they can be actors instead of spectators. What does it mean to be an actor? It means being part of the process. And when you're part of the process, you don't want to be like a negative actor. No, you want to be a significant actor. That when they will bring me the constitution, because now we cannot do anything. The military forces decided to take over. They took over. And they say that they will reform institutions. Now that they are reforming institutions, they made like a bid. It's just like business. They made a proposition. This is the constitution we give you in order to change, to reform institutions. Okay, let's take this institution. You open that, you read it from the beginning until the end, and you see if really this will make you happy in the future. If no, then you have to say to the authorities that no, we should sit down again and talk about this a little bit more. But the problem is that we don't do that. In Gabonese youth, we don't do that. We just focus on other stuff. And when they come to us to say, hey, Gabonese youth, this is the draft constitution. You have to vote yes at the referendum. We look at them and we'll go to vote for this draft constitution because they are just offering us some banknotes, 2,000 CFA francs, around $4. They give you $4, they buy your mind, and then you go to vote for them. It shouldn't work this way because this is actually what's happening in our country. And other countries should be aware of that. I'm saying the truth. That is what's happening in our country. So that's what the military forces are doing in our country. They say that we have a draft constitution that is okay, good for everybody. They take this, they go towards the population and they say, vote for this. This is the ideal constitution. Okay, if it is the ideal constitution, why do you give us again money for us to vote for it? This is actually what we were seeing in the past regime that has been overthrown. Of course, so we can understand from here that the same habits of this past regime still continue. Why? Because the authorities of the transition allow this. When I'm saying the authorities of the transition, I'm talking about the army. The army allows this because now they have hegemony in the country. When they see such stuff that have been happening in our countries for many years and that led Gabon to nowhere, we should stop them. Once we see the faces and stuff, we stop them, we arrest them, we send them to jail. You don't just have to say, you authorities, that Gabonese youth are gangsters. They don't do anything. They are gangsters. They are the ones who do everything bad in the country. But when it is time for us to vote, you come towards us. You come to gangsters because you say that we are gangsters. So you come to gangsters and say, we need your vote. Finally, how can a politician go into a gangster to take a vote? The place of the gangster is into jail, right? So let's not talk about constitution with emotions. Let's not talk about this draft constitution with a little mind, because the men are not eternal. The men will pass. The constitution will stay. The institutions will stay. We shouldn't make up a constitution for somebody. It's impossible. And even in the article 170, it is stated that the ones who have set free our country, Gabon, we have to give them amnesty. We have to give them amnesty from the 29th of August 2023 until the 4th September of 2023. For all these days, all the actors that have been leading all of this, they have to get amnesty. So we should forgive them in basic terms. Okay, that's good, because that's you made a so-called liberation, you brought a so-called freedom to the people. Okay, we're happy for that, but who are those people then? What is the list? What is the names? What are the names of those people who have set our our country free. People will argue by saying that we cannot write, we cannot write these names in the constitution because it is impersonal. Okay, I take this point. It is impersonal. But because you are now willing to establish the transparency in the governance, why don't you write the names of those guys? You come before the people, even with medias, because it's the fourth power. You take the medias, all the media of the country, you take the list of the names, you present it, and you say that these are the names. They were actually 20 people who were part of this. And we see all the names of people who participated. We agree, okay, no problem. So then for this constitution, let's just accept this article because we already saw the names and we can witness that actually, yeah, they are true people, they are good. Then okay, we will agree for this article. But we don't know the names, we don't know the actors of this coup d'etat. So it means that tomorrow we can wake up and say, after the draft constitution to be voted, we can say that the last president was actually a part of the coup d'etat. I'm sorry, but it can't work this way. Gabonese youth, African youth, you have to get up. You have been sleeping for many years now. It is time for you to put in your mind that still we're not independent. As a Gabonese patriot, our ideology is patriotic Pan-Africanism. Why? Because firstly, we should be patriots. We should love our countries. We should be attached, linked to our territories, our different countries. I am patriot because I love my country, Gabon. Because I love my country, I have to do everything possible in order to defend the interest of my country first. But also we are Pan-Africanists because we have a view that goes beyond our country. We understand and we agree with geopoliticians and geostrategists who say that a country, whatever the decisions it takes, will always be attached to a land that is greater than it. So maybe with a natural catastrophe, our country Gabon will be separated from Africa, and in 50 years, 100 years, it will be next to China. But for now, it is related to Africa. It is connected to Africa. So whatever happens in Gabon will also reflect into the continent. Whatever the thing happening in Cameroon, in Congo, it will also affect the other countries. I am taking the point of Kwame Nkrumah, one of the fathers of Pan-Africanism. I am taking also the path of Thomas Sankara. I am taking the path of Lumumba. I am taking the path of all those great leaders that have even waged wars, the sacrifices that they have done in order to get our continent, Africa, free. The youth should understand this. And we should not run after the same people, after the same Westerners, day after day, saying that we need partnerships, we need to have your military bases. Just the case in Gabon, we still have military bases of France. That is unthinkable. If we are to be truly sovereign, we cannot have the military bases of a foreign power. It means that still there are things happening behind the scenes that you cannot control, because these bases have been established more than 60 years now. So they have got the time to work on the system to establish themselves a little bit everywhere in the country. And now they are making us think that they are going, because they said that we had more than 200 soldiers on the ground on the territory of Gabon. Now we are reducing the number. We are about 100 people now. Okay, it's good to be around 100 soldiers on the territory. Still, that's what you want to make us understand. But the reality is that you have had all the time to establish everything you wanted to establish all around in the country. So that even if there's still one soldier remaining, in the technological aspect, you would have put some stuff in place in order to get more informations even when you are left. We know that. As Gabonese youth, we know that. As African youth, we know that. It is the same system in Senegal, because you still have military bases there. In Ivory Coast, in Djibouti, where you claim to defend their interests and stuff. But we know what's going on behind the scenes. And we are not afraid to say that. We have to be free. Gabonese youth, you should be understanding this point. We are not sovereign yet. Sovereignty is a concept that has been brought from the Western side, the Western bloc. And we put that in our constitution and in our vocabulary. We are a sovereign state. We're not sovereign. All the aspects I said before, when you analyze them, we are still in the same house, because now they want to make us understand that we have got into a palace or a bigger house. No, we're still in the same house, but we just changed the room, the bedroom we were in, just like our spokesperson could say it yesterday. The other point I wanted to talk about is, as African youth, before finishing, as African youth, we should create a network of revolutions in our country. In Gabon, in all the other countries that are suffering from imperialism, that are suffering from neocolonialism, they will come to you to frighten you, to make you afraid. But you shouldn't be afraid. You should say with vivacity that we are ready to fight the good fight in order to set our countries free. If we had the courage to get up and to set our foot on such decision, on such a thinking, it is possible that not only us, but also the others in other countries will get aware of the situations that are happening because of the wind of imperialism. Once this network of revolutions has been set all around, it will produce a bomb. Because Thomas Sankara could say, when he was still living, he said that a youth that is aware of the challenges of their territories are even stronger than a nuclear bomb. Can you think about this? You are stronger than what they want to make you think. If you're stronger than what they want to make you think, you have to change the way you think in your mind, because everything is made up in the mindset. Once you put it in your mind that we can, because that is what Semi Keba is doing. He understood the struggle. Alain Foucault understood the struggle. Those guys understood the struggle. What about you? You follow them. You see and you watch their videos. Then what's next? You just follow them and say, okay, continue, or you will also get up and say that, yes, I will be an actor more than a spectator. What is happening in our country, Gabon, is also happening in other countries. It happened a few time ago in Chad. We saw what happened there. Military forces coming and saying that we'll give back the power to the civilians. And what happened? Even to organize elections, they couldn't. And after a certain while, they did that. But what happened? The president that would give the power back to the civilian, he was receiving the power from his father being killed, he still had power. It will be the same case in our country. Even if the president of the transition has not said or has not proclaimed himself as a candidate for the future elections, but that's what we are seeing, it's approaching. How can you understand that a president who proposes a draft of the constitution, he says through his minister that before the period of campaigns, you shouldn't incite or ignite the spirits of people for them to vote yes, okay, or for them to vote no, okay. So the time of the campaign is not arrived yet, all right, no problem. So we don't talk about that. Let's just discuss about the constitution. But some days before the campaign to start, he goes to meetings and says to the population, the constitution that is proposed to you is the best. You should vote yes for that. So what's the link then between what you say through your minister and what you are saying now? There is a huge gap, and we cannot continue with such leaders. We want responsible leaders, leaders saying a word and keeping that word and abiding by that word. You don't say something and you do another thing. It doesn't work this way, and we cannot accept this. We cannot accept it, and we will never accept it as Gabonese patriots. What would happen if we say no to this draft constitution? We will rewrite it, nothing else. Because when they receive, I'm talking about the national committee of transition, when they received the constitution coming out from the National Assembly, what did they do? They took, not the National Assembly, but the National Assembly and the Senate together. So they were in Congress for 10 days to review the constitution that came to them, and they proposed it to the National Committee of Transition, and also with the member of the governments. They sat one day to review again this constitution. They modified some articles because they were creating some debate inside the population. So when they did that in one day, they proposed what they did in one day to the population. Okay, the revisions that they did in one day. So why not sitting down again and say that, okay, the population is not satisfied with the draft constitution we gave, so let's sit down one day more, let's change all the articles they want us to change for their good, and it will be okay. They don't think about this. They just say that, no, we are running after time, we have to go back to the norms, the constitution, we have to be in a country without military forces at the power. You are running, but why are you running? Who is pursuing you? There's no one behind you. You have time, because the norms, the constitutional norms for many years have not given anything to the country. It's good to have constitutional norms. Still, when you don't apply them, it messes everything. So, as Gabonese patriots, with all the course of the events happening in our country, we say clearly that we like, okay, all the actions we see are already negative. All the members and all the leaders are already that negative. Okay, but beyond that, still they bring a constitution that makes no sense. It makes no sense. You cannot say that the president will have the hegemony in all the aspects. And when they say that let's come and debate, they go to take some people who try to argue without even reading the constitution. So they say no just for the sake of saying no, or yes for the sake of saying yes. No, read the constitution. I'm ready for anybody coming now and saying, let's talk about the constitution. Yes or no, no or yes. And I will defend my point on the no, on all the articles in the constitutional court. That's how we call it in our country. So the court, the council that has in charge the matters of the constitution, the constitutional court in our country, now they want to take a decision about this, that there are 9 judges, 9 constitutional judges that will be appointed. Okay. Those 9 judges, there are 3 that are appointed by the president. There are 2 coming from the High Council of Judges. But those 2 coming from the High Council of Judges, of the judiciary, actually, they are already shaped because the president of the republic is the president of that council. So automatically, even if it is not the president of the republic who appoints them, since he is the one above them there in that council, they will have in their minds this principle that you have to give back what you received from someone who appointed you. So, and it is written in the Article 9 of the Constitution. So, when you already have 3 judges from the president and 2 ones that are so-so, 2 ones appointed by the National Assembly president, the speaker, actually, and 2 from the Senate president, can you make calculations with me? Because those people will appoint now the Constitutional Court's president. They will choose among themselves and they will vote who will be the president among us. So if those ones are already for the president, it means that nothing is left for the others, for the parliament. It means there is a problem, and there is a serious problem. And those judges are actually there for an 8-year term. 8-year term. In the past constitutions, they were there for 5 years term. Now they change it and they put in the draft constitution. They will be now for 8 years. So it means, in practical terms, that if the National Assembly president So all the parliament, okay, the parliament, they appoint their 4 judges for a term of 8 years. Okay, those judges will be there for 8 years. But the presidents of all the chambers of the parliament will be there for 5 years. So their term is 5 years. If they are there for 5 years, they appoint judges for 8 years. It means that when we will have a new president of the National Assembly or the new president of the Senate, what would happen when they will come after 5 years, remaining to the judges 3 years, the new president of the Senate and the new president of the National Assembly will not be able to appoint, to use their right of appointment for 3 years. So now there is a hindrance. They cannot actually, they cannot appoint because the judges which are there have been appointed by the former presidents. So we have to wait for those 3 years to finish in order to change, to appoint again. So now we are hindering the power of certain, we are hindering the power of certain presidents, of certain people. This is not just when we see that the president, who is there for 7 years, will have the right to appoint judges for 8 years. So himself is there for 7 years, the judges will be there for 8 years, and the president of the National Assembly and the Senate are there for 5 years. It makes no sense. I'm going to end up right here saying the following thing. Tomorrow, Gabonese people, and also I am addressing myself to the world continent. Tomorrow in our country, Gabon, the 16th of November 2024, will take place the referendum after the draft constitution that has been given to Gabonese people. We have the responsibility to go into polls in order to vote, yes or no. As an individual, firstly, without any link to any organization or movement, I by myself have to be aware of the challenges. Okay. Second, after being aware, I have to analyze what is good and bad and take the right decision, because you will not be with somebody in the poll. You will be alone taking your decision. After everything I've been talking about here, when you analyze point per point, you have the choice to say, yes, I will vote for this draft constitution. You can say, no, it's up to you. But as a Gabonese patriot, we call the people who truly understand the challenges of our country and our continent to go to the polls and to vote no to this draft constitution with a high vivacity, with a high strength, in order to rewrite this constitution. We have time. Nobody is after us. We have all the funding possible. We have money to restart this, because we said to the authorities that this draft constitution, though, is not good for the world population. They didn't understand. Now the vote is for tomorrow. Maybe we cannot again postpone this date. No problem. The vote will happen. But as Gabonese patriots, let's give sanctions to this draft constitution. Let's sanction this with no pity, because they don't have any pity for us. when they propose such a text to us. We have time, we have money. We cannot accept that in our country, a referendum, the budget for this referendum So if the sound is okay now, you can just tell me. If you're truly a patriot, you will go tomorrow to say no to this constitution. Thank you for listening me. Thank you for the youth that it will listen to this message wherever their